I've really been struggling lately. I've noticed I tend to catastrophize everything, and I really live in the extremes, either black or white, and it's really dragging me down. The world feels so blah. And it's hard to find joy in the little things. The problem with black and white thinking is that it's associated with depression. That's the whole premise of dialectical behavior therapy, is embracing the in-between, the both and. Things are not black and white as much as we may want them to be. Instead, they're gray. Do you find yourself caught in the comparison trap, constantly measuring your worth against others? You know what we say, comparison is the thief of joy, and I don't want that for you. Today, we're diving in deep to reframing those limiting beliefs. So, if you're someone who's never felt good enough and you always are comparing your bloopers to someone else's successes, time to get off social media and let me give you a reality check. Get ready to break free from this cycle of self doubt and embrace a mindset of empowerment. Welcome to today's session. What we'll be exploring is how to reframe limiting beliefs using the DOT skills: describe, observe, try. Don't take my word for it. Let's experiment and see if we can get you some quick wins. A quick side note, I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. This is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only. Super common belief that I hear clients say all the time is, I'm not good enough. Have you been there? I know I have. So first thing we want to do with the DOT procedure is describe, observe, try. So if we describe this belief, what comes up for you? Well, I know I'm a good person, but when I make a little mistake, I just feel terrible. Well, this belief often arises when we compare ourselves and feel inadequate. It manifests as negative self-talk and undermines self-esteem. So now let's shift to mindfulness and observe. Notice when this belief arises and impacts your thoughts and emotions. Does it happen when you want to raise your prices? When you want to ask someone for something? Does it happen when you compare yourself to others? Now let's try challenging this belief. I don't have anything to prove. I'm good enough just as I am. Turning your mind to your strengths and accomplishments can really help check the facts on this limiting belief, because oftentimes our limiting beliefs aren't even true, and yet they control us. We don't want that for you. Practice self-compassion and remind yourself that you are worthy just as you are. Another super common belief that I see in my practice is I'll never be successful, happy, fulfilled, fill in the blank as them. Social media has really contributed to this limiting belief, because now we know everything about everybody. If their dog died, if they got a raise at work, how many kids they have. It used to be that we didn't know these intimate details about everybody in our social circle. So let's describe the belief. This belief fosters envy, which is feeling like someone has something that I don't have, and it tends to diminish our own achievements and happiness. All never is also a generalization. Anytime we use statements with always and never, typically they just simply aren't true, because there's an exception to every rule. So really listen for that language, and you can start to de-escalate the threat level on those limiting beliefs. So even if you said, sometimes I'm not as successful as other people, because we all tend to make upward comparisons. And this actually is a DBT skill, and this would trigger so many people in group, because DBT actually recommends that sometimes you make a downward comparison as a way to check the facts. Like, I may have depression, but I have a house, I have a job, I have a family. There are some people who are not able to work. Some people are not able to have those things because of their depression. Observe. Let's acknowledge the emotions that arise when we think this thought. When we think, I'll never be successful. Oh, it's kind of cringy, right? And so if it makes us feel bad, that's our cue that we're having a limiting belief or a negative thought. With anxiety, we always go to the worst case scenario, so it can be really helpful to check the facts with your therapist, with your partner, with your friend. I'm always working with my clients to bring the threat level down because when we're under threat, there's no room for pleasure. Okay, now let's try. This is a really edgy one, but if you haven't noticed, I'm all about some celebration and brags. And the reason that I do this is because women in particular are socialized to really play small, and it can feel so edgy. I mean, we're all taught that brags are a bad thing. It's not a brag to make someone feel bad, but it's really to celebrate your own success. And often our success comes with a sort of invisible labor. So it can create a lot of resentment if we're not being validated by others and or ourselves. And so we can't always control whether we're going to get the accolades from other people, but we can control whether we give them to ourselves. Let's reframe this belief by celebrating our own successes and finding joy in our own unique journey. As cliche as that might sound, practicing gratitude is the ultimate mindfulness act. And it doesn't have to be huge things we're grateful for. We can be grateful for the next breath, grateful that we woke up this morning, grateful that we made it to school on time today, that we weren't on the tardy walk of shame. True story. Another common belief that trips people up all the time is I should be further along now. Oh, I've had that one myself for sure. Can you tell you're an overachiever without telling you're an overachiever? Anytime we have a should statement, we need to watch out. There's this thing called the tyranny of the shoulds. And when I worked at a holistic treatment center, their tagline was stop shoulding on yourself, which if you say that fast, you kind of get the vibe. But let's deconstruct this belief. First, let's describe it. Well, this belief creates pressure to achieve arbitrary milestones based on comparison to other people's timelines. The only fair comparison is comparison with the past you, because we're all different. An oak tree wouldn't compare itself to a bamboo tree, right? That's not a fair comparison. They're totally different. For all of you generators out there, that I should be further along belief really creates a lot of frustration and impatience. Time, I find, is a huge trigger for people, and we're all on our own timeline. Try shifting your perspective by focusing on your own personal growth and achievement. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be each moment. Another common limiting belief is if I only had what they have, I'd be happy. It's kind of like the I'll have what she's having thing in Harry Met Sally. If you know, you know. This belief really relies on an external sense of happiness and fulfillment, which can be a total trap. It leads to feelings of discontent and longing and often striving and grasping. Instead, let's observe. Notice how this belief creates this cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. And we all know from manifesting, it's not that we really want the thing, the person, the car, the career, the baby, the house, the money. It's that we want the feelings that we think we will get with these things. So the ultimate hack is to get the feelings first. No, you might feel like a little silly or delulu for doing this, but I'm going to give you permission that pleasure psychology really is about prioritizing yourself and your pleasure. And a little delusional might actually just be positive self-esteem and good mindset. It feels delusional because it goes so against the grain of what we've been taught by our toxic culture. Let's observe the fleeting nature of external validation. Think about the last time you got a new car. Remember how awesome it was and how amazing it made you feel. And then maybe a week later, it was just your normal car. And so we're always chasing this dream. But if you've ever manifested a dream, it's awesome. It's great if you are mindful of it. But often we're just on to the next thing because we're in an expanding universe and we always do want more. So recognize that happiness is an inside job. Now we're back to try. And here we go again with the gratitude thing, but it really does work. Finding joy in the present moment unlocks us from this constant cycle of striving. Instead, inner peace and contentment is an attitude that you can intentionally connect to through mindfulness. Gratitude also helps you shift your focus to the things that you already have manifested and that indeed we already have what we need. May not always what we want, but often what we need. Another super common limiting belief is the belief I'll never measure up. Let's describe it. Well, this belief perpetuates a feeling of unworthiness and often undermines self confidence and self esteem. It can make us just want to give up with a sense of defeat and resignation. Now let's observe. Let's acknowledge the impact of the belief I'll never measure up. Pay attention. Do you feel your heart shut? Do you feel the panic rise up? Now, notice how it holds you back from your dreams and goals. Next, let's try challenging this belief. Let's reframe your definition of success. This is very poignant for me because at a certain point around midlife, I had hit all the boxes. I got a PhD, I got married, I had kids, I had the dream house, I had the business, I had everything that I wanted. And yet, instead of feeling satisfied, I felt exhausted. And that's when pleasure psychology was born. I needed to redefine my definition of success to include myself in it, to make sure I was taking care of me as the ultimate success. Did you resonate with some of the limiting beliefs that we talked about? If so, no worries. It's super common for humans, especially sensitive humans, to have these limiting beliefs. But just remember, we can reframe limiting beliefs and break free from this comparison trap. Practicing self-awareness and self-compassion can help you navigate your journey of personal growth and increase your pleasure. Join us next time for more empowering discussions. And grab my ebook, Pleasure Pathways, if you want to understand your pleasure profile and what works for you to increase your pleasure according to your natural style.